In the void of my prison cell, I long for the touch of the river, cosmos of life and love. I have no sun, no moon, no stars, neither the clouds, dawns, dusks, nor the days or the nights. A long stretch of darkness spreads like the unsayable emptiness in the space between galaxies. Tonight, there is no one at the side of my pining heart. Like a fish out of water, I gasp for freedom, love, and friendship. I have no idea of living without the shelter of your love. Life is shorn of life. Thought is separated from thought. My eyes refuse to acknowledge the high, barren walls that barricade my existence. Life survives in no isolation. Life thrives, entwining life. Please.
A plea for the doctors who will receive Professor Saibaba's body. Dear doctors, when you remove, you know that Saibaba donated his body to for medical research, right? He said, dear doctors, when you remove Saibaba's eyes, please add a touch of gentleness. For in them lie traces of the world he dreamt of that might unfold within someone else. Please extract his heart with the utmost care, with the utmost skill. For in that tenacious heart that denied death, in the fascist Manuvadi regime's prison, you may find the roots of tender compassion for the Adivasis and oppressed masses. In constant captivity, grappling with illness, he stood firm for his beliefs. Please check, perhaps, those polio-stricken legs could leave a mark on the faces of the chameleon activists who preach a new ideology every day. One more final request. Please preserve that brain even more carefully for the future generations. For though 90% disabled, his thinking mind, quote unquote, made this exploitative system tremble with fear. Someday it may help someone identify the system's weak link. I find that I have actually known Saibaba for over 20 years. I really didn't know him. I would meet him at meetings. I visited his house and Vasanta once. And I think it's one of the greatest losses of my life that I didn't really care to spend more time with him to get to know him better. When Salvajaroon started in 2005, entire villages were being burnt. People were just killed and their bodies were left on the road, in the forests. Entire villages, like according to the government's website, 644 villages were officially affected. There were at least 50,000 people in camps. 50,000 people or more had fled to Andhra Pradesh and mostly to Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra. And this was the context in which I had met Sai earlier at a Revolutionary Writers Forum once, but this was the context in which I would meet Sai again and again, because he consistently organized meetings against Operation Green Hunt, which happened in 2009, which was a direct successor to the Salvajaroon and which is still going on in some way or the other today. So ever since December 2023, when this government came back, new BJP government came back to Chhattisgarh, not that it had stopped under the Congress, but over the last 8 months or so, over 150 people have been killed in fake encounters. Again, we are seeing a whole range of young people being arrested, mass killings. This is actually a mass killing when, every so often 10 people are killed, 5 people are killed, and so on. And when Saibaba came out of jail, one of the first things he did was again raise this issue. So this is not something that Saibaba raised because, he was in fact one of the only people at that time also raising this question of Operation Green Hunt, organizing meetings, has consistently worked on it. It was something that was very close to Saibaba. It is something that is very close to me. And yet, I'm sad that we didn't talk more about it, because we just assumed that, you know, he's going to be around, I'm going to be around, and there will be time to talk about other things, right? There will be time to talk about his work, his poetry in jail, and I've been in touch more with Vasanta, who has been one of the bravest people that I've ever met, who, you know, made sure that he got books in jail, went to visit him, kept us all informed of what was happening with him, with his health. She kept, you know, working to try and make sure that he got medical treatment, which he didn't get. We know that he didn't get the kind of medical treatment he should have got in jail. We know that when Hani Babu has his eye, you know, had that eye problem, it took a long time for him to be able to go to the medical hospital. We know that when Mahesh Raut had ulcers, somehow he had to live with those ulcers through jail. And Mahesh Raut, again, is somebody who has worked with Adivasis. He was, the last time I met Mahesh Raut was at a meeting that he had organized to discuss, this was in 2018, 10 years of the Forest Rights Act and 20 years of PESA. And because Mahesh was bringing the law to people, he was arrested, and he got bail actually from the High Court a year and a half ago, and the Supreme Court has been sitting on that bail. So just like they had a meeting on Saturday to send Saibaba back to jail, unprecedented in, you know, nobody gets acquitted and then sent back to jail through a special hearing, and you have to be a special kind of horrible judge to do this. You have to, you know, when bail is the rule and jail is an exception, according to the Justice Chandrachud, who is always giving lectures about this, everywhere that he goes, except when he's in the court. When all the judges of the Supreme Court are talking about liberty as a fundamental right, except we're in the Supreme Court, except when they're actually supposed to do their jobs. And you have to be a special kind of horrible person to have a special sitting on Saturday to send a 90% disabled person back to jail, knowing that he will be unable to access the kind of medical treatment he needs, that he will be unable to, you know, live a normal life even after coming back because of what you have done to him in jail. So whoever thinks that this is the rule of law, I think we all know that this is not justice as it should be, justice as we should know it, and it is certainly not the rule of law. Mahesh Raut has had his, again, there was a stay on his bail, which has, you know, because let me say it, it's in front of Justice Bela Trivedi, and Justice Bela Trivedi is the sort of person who will catch people off the streets and send them to jail if she can. She's the sort of, like Justice Pardiwala, who's also at some point going to be the Chief Justice, who blamed Teesta Setalwad for fighting a struggle for 16 years and said that she should go to jail. Who filed a case, who said that Himanshu Kumar should go to jail because he fought a case for Adivasis. So just as judges who send people back to jail on a Saturday, who charge people for daring to have the gumption to fight a PIL, these are the kinds of judges that we have and that we must struggle to retain our constitution from. We need to reclaim our constitution, and what Saibaba has done by dying is to show people that, you know, all of us, including me, I thought it can't be that bad. After all, Saibaba survived the jail, right? A 90% person who's disabled and he was in jail for 10 years, and perhaps, like, you know, it wasn't that bad because he survived. And now by dying, he's shown all of us that we cannot be complacent. We cannot be complacent about Umar Khalid. We cannot be complacent about Mahesh Raut, about Surendra Gadling, who was Sai's lawyer, who was everybody's lawyer. We cannot be complacent about all of them who are still in jail, Gulfisha, Miran Haidar, Sharjeel Imam, all of us. And because we are in this university, we have a special responsibility to academics, to Hani Babu, to all our students and teachers who are in jail, and we have to work to get them out. I can see Natasha here, who was in jail. And one of the things that Natasha and Devangana taught us is that we must write letters to people in jail because that's what keeps them going. We must write letters because the spirit of Saibaba demands it. We must write letters to Saibaba wherever he is, through writing to those in jail and struggling against UAPA. And because we are in this university and we are losing all our spaces, we must fight to reclaim each space that we have, inch by inch, room 17 by 22 se 21 se 22. We have to fight, and we have no other alternative if we want to keep thought alive in this university, if we want to make the university more than just a teaching shop for complete, I mean, it's not a teaching shop for degrees. Universities are spaces for critical thinking. For colleagues like Saibaba, we just heard Ira talk about his commitment to producing that textbook. We need colleagues who care about students, who care about what is taught to students, and not, because this university is going to last a long time. It's lasted since 1924. This year is actually, I mean, it's been 100 years. And if we want the university to last another 100 years, it's our responsibility, each one of us in this room, to make sure that happens. Otherwise, the university will become like, there's this famous line about how Allahabad University, which was once called the Oxford of the East, and somebody asked the direction to Allahabad University, and they said, it's opposite Krishna coaching. So if you want Delhi University to be the landmark for people to come to, and not opposite Ram coaching or Krishna coaching, then it's upon all of us to keep the memory of Sai alive and to keep critical thought alive. Thank you.
To dear students and my fellow teachers, I dream of being in my classroom day and night, fettered behind the strong iron beams of my tiny solitary prison cells. I see you, talk to you, and hug you by force of my frail and challenged life in my unchained mind's eye. As the desire for freedom flows through the veins of my bloodstream, even as I am gazed far away from you. Teaching is my forte. Breath and life, I embrace literature, for it clasps us with our troubled histories, philosophies, and economics of pans, pain, tears, fears, and hopes for a bright new day. The cage of lies, seditious clauses of law, and conspiracies confine and keep me away from your intimate and critical engagement with knowledge and warm affection for the liberty of the trampled earth. Then he writes, dear friends, I have lived all my conscious life on the campuses of learning and teaching in search of knowledge, love, and freedom. In the course of this search, I learned that freedom for a few was no freedom. I began to study histories, philosophies, and literatures with more eagerness and critical engagement. That led me to look around myself closely. I traveled across and met people living in subhuman conditions. I realized that they never tasted freedom very much like me. I understood that caste and freedom can never coexist. I began to speak to myself. Then I slowly started to speak to my fellow beings on my journey. I grasped of a great void of silence around me. I saw a society of silence. I dashed myself against the boulders of silence. I brutally wounded myself. A vast majority of the multitudes has never been allowed to break their silence. Centuries of silence solidified in our lives below the high and barren rocks of argumentative India. I desired to break the prison house of silence. I struggled within myself. The rocks were hard to move. I realized that I carried within myself our silent society. It was not an easy journey. It was such a long journey, strenuous and painful. Eventually, I thought I gathered a voice myself. I wanted my fellow beings also to have a voice of their own so that we could converse. In the process, my voice gradually began to emerge. I was bewildered to see that my voice was heard. After some time, my voice even started to rise a bit. Then suddenly fell an X on my throat. My voice was silenced in one stroke. Friends, today I reel under the relentless pain. One after the other, my organs started bursting. The closer of my voice within me explodes into shooting pain. My vocal cords acquired hasten, making my voice a thin and inaudible squeak. My heart broke with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. My brain has started having blackouts with a condition called sanso. My kidneys are silted with pebbles. My gallbladder gathered stones and pancreas grew a tail of pain called pancreatitis. Nerve lines in my left shoulder broke under the conditions of my arrest, known as brachial plexopathy. More and more organs of silence replaced the original. I have been living with explosive and shooting pain day in and day out. I am living on the margins of life. 11 long months have passed. I continue to languish under the brutal conditions of incarceration without any relief. I am forced to live without any human dignity and bodily integrity. The conditions under which I am living here have reduced me to subhuman and inhuman levels. You think of the crime attributed to me. I have lived for freedom. I have tried to find the voice of the voiceless, and I tried to find my voice. I wrote about them, I spoke about them, those my fellow beings who are not allowed to have a voice of their own for centuries. This is my crime. Degrading my body and mind is not simply removing humanity from me alone. It is an act of dehumanizing our entire society, our civilizational existence. I hope none of you should feel sympathetic to my condition. I do not believe in sympathy. I only believe in solidarity. I intended to tell you my story only because I believe that it is also your story. Also because I believe my freedom is your freedom. This is Nagpur jail, 7th February 2019.
जैसा कि हम सब जानते हैं कि आज हम GM साई बाबा की याद में यहाँ एकत्रित हुए हैं। प्रोफेसर साई की मृत्यु सामान्य मृत्यु नहीं थी, यह स्टेट द्वारा दी गई प्रताड़नाओं का प्रतिफलन है। This shows that how our state is afraid of the critical minds. प्रोफेसर साई हमारे लिए आइकन है और आज उनकी याद में हम एक 50 की ओर से गीत प्रस्तुत करने जा रहे हैं।
मत समझो हमने भुला दिया, मत समझो हमने भुला दिया, ये मिट्टी तुमको प्यारी थी, ये मिट्टी तुमको प्यारी थी, समझो मिट्टी में सुला दिया, मत समझो हमने भुला दिया, मत समझो हमने भुला दिया। मेहनत कश को जिस जन्नत का तुमने दिखाया, समझो हमने भुला दिया। मजदूरों के बागी लश्कर निकलेंगे अब बात बनाने। दहकानों ने अहद किया है धरती के सब पाप मिटाने। रंगो नस्ल पर फर्क न होगा, मजहब की तकरीर न होगी। अब इस देश की कोई बेटी मुल्ला राज में हर्क न होगी। तुमसे किया जो वादा था, तुमसे किया जो वादा था, देखो हमने भी निभा दिया। मत समझो हमने भुला दिया, मत समझो हमने भुला दिया। ये मिट्टी तुमको प्यारी थी, ये मिट्टी तुमको प्यारी थी, समझो मिट्टी ने सुला दिया। मत समझो हमने भुला दिया, मत समझो हमने भुला दिया, मत समझो हमने भुला दिया।
कांग्रेस साईं बाबा अमर रहे,
अमर रहे, अमर रहे।
कांग्रेस साईं बाबा अमर रहे,
अमर रहे, अमर रहे।
These days I think of death, I mean about life. The English poet comes to my mind again and again. He called death a great leveler. But death, my love, I find it poor or rich, disgraceful or with dignity. It all depends on who one is in life. But each creature on the earth refuses to die, no matter how insignificant its existence is considered to be by anyone. Each living thing wages a grand resistance against death. Even stars die. After shining for billions of years, and galaxies collapse, spreading over billions and billions of years. But then remember, my love, new stars take birth and baby galaxies sprout. My love, life of my life, these days I think of death, I mean about life. I still feel I am a young student of a learning campus, even after turning 50 and growing gray behind the bars. A nation's fear of aging has its genesis in the dwindling number of hands to work for its deathly glory. Nations imprison life in their deadly hubris. Death sentence is easier than living life a prisoner. In our beautiful land, eking out a living has become more difficult than desiring death. Nations are prison houses encompassing death's desire. Life is made more difficult than ease of doing business. Business has come to be death. Nations are nothing but businesses in death. Even the earth dies. One day along with its burning star, the sun. But there must be many, many earths with beautiful creatures like us floating in the infinite space. We do not know them yet. The world, my love, goes on oblivious of death as if it doesn't exist. The universe is humanized. For it to be history is to be human. Time is human, and to be human is to be life. My love, life of my life, these days I think of death, I mean about life, because I have a pact of love with beauty. I have a pact of love with my people.